I was having such a hard time finding someone. No smokers, high maintenance, tourist, but I refused to lower my standards. Too tall, too short, too serious. So I was just about ready to give up. Too religious, too pretty, too enhanced. And then I found him.
I'm Olaf, and I like warm hugs.
Kindler, because the hottest relationships start with a match. Oh, Quatangen Wan, my people, and welcome to the Hardcore Endgame build guide for Ember. Production took longer for this video than usual, partly because I've been extremely busy preparing to get my Twitch stream off and running this week, starting on Wednesday, but also because I completely misjudged Ember. See, years ago, she was all about waltzing through low-level content like a flaming diva and making the game less fun for everyone. It's not really my cuppa, so I never really developed a fondness for Ember. Even after a rework, I continued to swipe left, to the point where I'm not sure I ever really looked into her new kit until this past week. This, it turns out, was a big mistake, because she's capable of kicking every type of ass in the galaxy.
Can't wait to kick some Romulan ass.
Yeah. And thanks to a potent combination of damage reduction, armor strip, and crowd control, she can do it all the way up through Steel Path. This type of power has a price tag, of course, so let's check out the build requirements. An Orkan reactor is absolutely necessary, and if you want to use my exact build, you'll need 3 regular forma and 1 Umbra forma. However, later I'll show you a budget version of this build, which is less powerful of course, but doesn't use a single forma. It's a good way to try out the build in normal star chart missions before making a commitment. Ember is extremely energy hungry, so Arcane Energize is highly recommended. I also recommend getting Chorus and Snare via Helminth, but I'll talk about a few other great options which significantly increase the build's overall power. And finally, you'll want to have a melee weapon with a decent heavy attack build, which I'll also discuss later in the video. First though, let's talk about Ember's abilities and their interactions so we can better understand how to use them to maximize her potential. Her passive grants an additive 5% ability strength for each enemy affected by heat status within 50 meters. Ember loves to set things on fire. It's like her thing.
Hey! Fire it up! Fire it up! Fire it up! Fire it up! Fire it up!
So you're gonna have a fat bonus whenever you're surrounded by enemies, which is exactly when you'll need it most. Her 1 is Fireball, which deals a bit of heat damage with a guaranteed status proc to a single target, and diminished damage and status chance to anything near them. While heat status is very strong at the moment, this ability is completely expendable, and where I recommend slotting something from Helminth. I've been enjoying Chorus and Snare for multiple instances of sustained lockdown.
I recommend it and use it.
But Ember also benefits from the status immunity and heat procs of Nej's Firewalker, the mix of damage and survivability of Mirage's Eclipse, or the massive increase in damage Wisp's Breach Surge can provide thanks to all the heat ticks. As always, find something to heat treat your skeet meat and have a blast.
That is the most disgusting thing I ever heard.
Hey, you're not wrong. Anyway, next up is her 2, Immolation, which is where Ember's damage reduction comes from, and also where her kit gets really interesting. She covers herself in flame armor, which reduces incoming damage based on a meter at the bottom right of the screen. Reduction is modest when the meter is empty, but increases 0.5% each second Immolation is active, and can go all the way up to 90% when it's full, provided you have at least 115% total ability strength. The catch is that when you reach maximum heat, it starts draining energy at a base rate of 10 per second, plus another 0.5 energy for each second you've been at max heat. These amounts can be reduced by efficiency and duration, but the drain will eventually become too high to maintain, meaning you need a way to reduce it. Which brings us to her 3, Fire Blast. Using the ability sends out a circular wave of flames from Ember's location, cuts 50% off the heat meter, and also reduces its acceleration rate by 2 per second. Enemies hit by Fire Blast have a portion of their current armor permanently removed, and the amount varies based on current heat level. At 100% ability strength or higher, an empty meter will provide 50% armor strip, but this goes all the way up to 100% when the meter is full. Enemies hit are also knocked down, provided they're not immune to such effects, and receive a guaranteed heat status proc, which gives Ember more power strength via her passive. Last up is Inferno, her 4. Casting it increases the rate of acceleration for Ember's heat meter by 3 per second, and drops meteorites on any enemy units currently on your screen, even partially. Enemies take heavy damage on impact and are surrounded by which deals a significant amount of heat damage per second to both the target and any units that get too close while it's active. Enemies hit by a meteorite or ring also receive a guaranteed status proc, contributing more power strength via Ember's passive, and all of Inferno's damage is affected by this ability strength. So we end up with a mini-game of sorts that's all about energy and heat management. The closer we get to max heat, the more damage reduction and armor strip, but stay at max too long and energy will quickly disappear. Heat increases by 0.5% each second Immolation is active at baseline, is raised by 3 whenever you cast Inferno, and reduced by 2 whenever you cast Fire Blast, but cannot be reduced lower than 0.5 per second. And remember, Fire Blast also instantly removes 50% of max heat, which means casting it twice will empty the meter completely. When you decide to use your abilities will not only depend on whether you're trying to strip armor or deal damage, but also whether you're trying to empty or fill the heat meter. This makes her more interactive, but also extremely energy dependent. Now that you understand that fact, hopefully you can appreciate why I'm using certain mods in my build. Having a large energy pool to draw from is obviously important.
There is enough instant energy down there to supply all of Earth.
And since we don't have access to whatever that is, let's use primed flow instead. We also want to use less energy when we cast or channel abilities, so streamline and prime continuity get huge value. Energy recovery is the last piece of the puzzle, and we get that from Arcane Energize, as well as Hunter Adrenaline, which gives us energy whenever we take damage to health. Umbral Vitality pairs well with Hunter Adrenaline, giving us a huge health pool to do just that. Gladiator Resolve further raises HP, and Umbral Fiber pushes it even higher through the set bonus, while also boosting Ember's unimpressive base armor to a respectable level. Arcane Guardian grants a ton of additional armor, but only becomes necessary the later you go into Steel Path missions. Inferno, Fire Blast, and Ensnare all require range to work well, so I've got Stretch here. Power Drift makes it so that we're always able to get the max of 90% damage reduction, even if there are no burning enemies in range for our passive, and also helps us avoid knockdowns.
Not easy to knock me down. I have a very low center of gravity.
I've saved my aura slot for last because it ties directly into the melee build, which I mentioned earlier in the video. Swift Momentum gives us a faster windup for heavy attacks, and if I jump over to my melee weapon, you'll see that it's built specifically for heavy attacks. You obviously want to use the best weapon you have for this task, which should be the Tenet Grigori if you've ever heard me gush over it, but I'm using the Pennant for this video just to show that there are other options. You also want to get as close to this build as possible, but it's essential that you have
spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch.
What? No, it's not even close. It's Life Strike, and it grants 20% lifesteal on heavy attacks. This means we can always be trading our HP for energy via Hunter Adrenaline and never be more than a single heavy attack away from a complete refill. And one final tip, equipping a Decaying Dragon Key will reduce your shields by 75%, giving enemies less to chew through when shields recharge. It's a nice little shortcut to reduce the downtime on Hunter Adrenaline. Oh, and here's that budget version of the build I mentioned earlier, which uses no Forma. There's no point in going into the details on it because it behaves the same way as the main build, it just doesn't do any of it as well. And there's your Ember build. If you have any questions or comments regarding this or any of my builds, which can all be found at apocryphate.com, please stop by my Twitch stream between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern, which is 2 to 6 p.m. UTC. I'll be answering questions, playing with viewers, and giving away some in-game goodies. If you can't make it, I'll assume you chose something much less important to do instead, like go to school or work, or spend time with family. Yuck.